How do I position my business so I can get the funding I need and meet the requirements of the lender or investor? In this episode, we'll be discussing how you should be preparing your business to take on additional funding. Hello, and welcome back to the Nebraska Entrepreneur, the podcast for Nebraska entrepreneurs who seek candid guidance from Midwest leadership. I'm Steve Kanne, and I've been a successful entrepreneur in Nebraska for over 20 years, helping and mentoring entrepreneurs and business leaders across the country. Today, we're going to show you how to properly forecast your revenue and expenses and align that against your actual revenue and expenses. Joining us is a successful entrepreneur and founder of Dundee Venture Capital, Mark Hasebroock. Thanks again, Mark, for joining. I know
Great to be here.
We talked about funding your business and how to properly capitalize it in the different forms of investment you can get. But really, in this conversation, I really want to dive into more about maximizing your company's your company's earnings potential, like maximizing profit. Mm-hmm. You know, in the previous episode, we talked about setting yourself up to get funding, but just in general, I mean, so many companies, you had mentioned to me that so many companies don't even understand how much cash they have.
Yeah.
And while I say, all businesses are alike, the nuances can be very different, right? And how the accounting works and the types of customers. Is it a product? Is it a service? So really want to dig into your thoughts on where to start when you're a business owner, you're a founder, you're going, okay, how do I really get the most out of my business in terms of income?
Yeah, well, you nailed it. I mean, for what we do, we invest in ideas. Mm-hmm. So a lot of them don't even have revenue. And so when we come to an agreement and put some cash into a business, that's their lifeblood. Yeah. They're trying to find customers. Mm-hmm. Some have a few customers and some proof points, and it's starting to work. But we give them a T-shirt when we close, and on the front of it, has the letters DROC, and that stands for Don't Run Out of Cash. and they all laugh, and they're like, "That's funny, yeah." And we kind of go, "No, I mean, we're serious."
You're serious, yeah.
And so a lot of times, any updates, anytime we talk to the founders, is how much cash you have on hand. And if there's a pause, and they launch into, well, we got all these new customers, and we got this. Stop. Let's talk about how much cash you have, because if you run out of cash, you really don't have a business. Okay, so the principle of just knowing how much cash you have, how much you're burning in those early days, really important. At some point that flips. The sales start to kick in, the business starts to work, they're actually generating cash. But the principle we think of just driving that home is really important. Always know how much cash you have and do not run out.
When I was a kid, I used to hear the term cash is king. And it seems like it makes sense, but now I look at it as cash is oxygen. My business partner, Jamie, and I talk about that all the time. If you run out of cash, you run out of oxygen.
Yeah, exactly.
The entity, or the body can't survive without cash.
Yeah.
Run out of oxygen.
Yeah, and we always do a reset, and I just think it's really helpful to just say, why'd you start this business? Are we still on the same rhythm here? Do you still love what you're doing? Let's understand why you did. Yes, absolutely, I love it. My God, we're solving this big problem. I love my customers. It's starting to really work. And then you can get into the guts of, are you pricing everything okay? And every founder I've ever met always underprices their service, because they just don't want to appear like, is this okay? I don't want anybody to be mad at me. That's like, you can probably increase that.
Sure.
Because then it leads to, what are your margins? I mean, do you have good margins? And what is the target margin? And then what's the operating expenses to run this thing? And this is typically where things start to eat away. They always look at the price, they look at the margins on the product, but down here in these OpEx, there's things that start to eat away like a cancer. And once it gets baked into a company's business, it's really hard to carve back. And so if they can operate with that minimal level of operating expenses while driving that top line, that's really magical.
Yeah, you said something very important, because I've been through this a couple of different times actually with our businesses. And once you start spending money on something, or you hire a role and you don't, and then all of a sudden you start saying, okay, why is my EBITDA, my net income going down? And then a very important concept that somebody taught me was think of it this way: think of necessary versus nice. And when I finally did that in our business, and we started going through and talking about every line item on the P&L, we're like, is this necessary? Well, no, it's not. Then why are we spending money on it?
Yeah, I like that. That's nice. I like that.
It just made the decisions so much easier on how to cut, where to cut, what to cut. Because so much of that, and then people go, what do you mean we don't have this anymore? We're not paying for that. You look at them and go, well, is it really necessary to have? No, but it was nice.
Right.
Well, that's why. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it, because there's too much that gets baked in sometimes. You walk into an office and they all have Aeron chairs and the big desks and the this and that. I said, this is what our money went for? I mean,
and you worked out of your attic.
Yeah,
at one
time. We didn't have any money, and so we just had to scrimp where we could. And
sure.
You like to see founders with that kind of scrappiness, where they realize, I am not going to put a dime into something that does not generate revenue.
Good. Yep.
And, to the point where they're like, well, we have retreats and we got a yoga studio and you say, wow, this is going to die. This isn't going to work. It's the ones who say, once we take capital in, we know precisely what we're going to use it for, and we can show you. Great. Now, clearly, we're in times where there's this bucking bronco that's going on in the economy, and it's like, where do I turn? How do I do things? You can only control what you control, and do your absolute best and better than your competitors at controlling that. But if you have this low overhead and your competitor has the same overhead times 2, you'll win.
Yeah.
You got pricing power, you got flexibility, you have staying power, you'll have more cash.
Yeah.
I mean, the ability to have a long runway is so helpful.
Yep. It's one of the things where you mentioned about a lot of times owners are underpricing their services, and I've actually been told that. Like, you're not selling your value. You guys bring a ton of value. You're underselling your value.
Yeah.
And one of the things is, and I want to get your thoughts on this, but I've kind of been like, I don't want to be low price.
Yeah.
I'm not selling on price. I don't want to be low price, and I'm not going to apologize for not being the lowest price. What's your thoughts on that? How do you receive that?
If you're providing the service and they're happy and you're talking to your customer, how are we doing? Are we meeting your expectations? Is everything going okay? If you were in my shoes, would you change anything? You say, oh, no, my God, you guys are doing great. Fantastic. We are, as a result of our success and our growth, going to be increasing prices. But since we're meeting all your expectations, my guess is that's not going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Rarely does anybody get fired because, oh my gosh, Steve, you raised prices 10%. The value's there. You're doing absolutely everything. And like in your case, it's a critical piece.
Right. Yeah. Managed IT is... Yep.
Hammock prices, I'm not sure, It's kind of like, well, I don't know. Do we really need a hammock? I don't know. Maybe. So when it comes to like what you guys provide, that's critical infrastructure protection, and they've got to have it.
Yep.
A 10% bump, people will just be like, I didn't even notice.
Yeah. I think the other piece of it, and you touched on it, is the communication with your customer, right? When we're selling to a prospective company to say, hey, we'd love to earn your business, we're not going to be the lowest price, but we need to understand, and we continue to get better in our sales process of truly understanding what brings the most value. There's really, in managed IT anyway, what I see, there's about 4 or 5 really critical things that you need to pick up on and really understand where an owner, a founder ranks those 4 or 5 critical things which will then drive my price, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's higher or lower. But it is the communication that after you land that business, you got to continue to have conversation with them, because if you stop, all of a sudden they feel like they're less important. And man, I thought I was paying.
Where'd he go?
Where'd you go?
Used to hear from him, and
I
now
don't
he's
feel the value anymore. And
Right.
so I've seen that.
The relationship is important, and also I'm surprised how many founders I will talk to and say, "So what did your customers say last month?"
Mm-hmm.
And they just look at you like, "What do you mean?" So, well, did you talk to any of them, or email them, or text, or anything? So being proactive with that, but also just proactive on asking for advice.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 10 customers, my guess is in your industry, if you ask 10 of your customers, A, how are we doing? But B, if you're showing innovation, like, we're thinking of offering this service and I wanted your feedback. What are your thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
Gee, thanks for asking, Steve. I think that's brilliant.
Mm-hmm. That's
it's something you can probably charge more for. It's a value add service and so forth, but it's deeply embedding the relationship with the customer. But just asking them, is there something we can do different? Are we we're meeting everything? I know our contract says X and it's Y, but what I had an idea. We're thinking about this AI agent that we're going to incorporate into our service. Is that something of interest to you guys? And if so, help me understand what you'd want it to look like. Some would just go, Steve, I don't have time for this. And others might say, hell, wow, this is real. It's cool. Let's talk. Yeah.
We've had to, we've had those conversations with clients over the years where they kind of lose sight of what is our value.
Yeah.
And sometimes what happens is you get turnover in your client.
Yeah.
Right. So the people you were dealing with are gone, and you got the new teams coming in, or the new leadership, and they have very little exposure to you, or had very little exposure. So then they come in and they're going, why are we hiring these guys to do our stuff, and why are we paying them this much to do it?
Yeah.
Then you got to have that. That's where you really need to sit down and have that conversation and really show them. You have to teach them what you're doing.
Yeah.
Something else that you've hit on several times is understanding the vision and the mission of the founder in the business. And I think that's core, right? That's your foundation, right?
Yep.
That's your bedrock. And if you don't know that, profitability and really just having the freedom of cash flow and oxygen coming in is really tough if you don't. Because if you don't understand who your client is, what your market is, maybe it's geography, right? The vertical, so maybe you understand your clients, but they could be what a perfect client looks like, but they could be in different verticals. Maybe some verticals, though, are more profitable than others. How do you assess all that when you're working with even with your business, Hay Needle? How did you go through that, like determine who my clients are, right?
Well, in that business, our customers were people buying stuff for their homes. And it was typically items they didn't think they needed or wanted, but they also didn't know where to find them. All right, so you had to make it easy. And the easy button, show me where to buy a hammock. In the day, you'd go to Walmart, you'd walk in and you'd ask somebody, where are your hammocks? And they go, I don't know, check the aisle with the pickles in the way back. I don't know. It's February. We don't sell hammocks. All right, well, let's go online and be able to find it, make it easy. It's like I pick you up and drop you into a hammock store. And we wanted to replicate that so it's simple. And so having that mindset with any of these founders, let's make this complex, whole weird transaction super easy. Like, hammock or prime secured. Let's just make it easy. You've greased the wheels. It's super easy. But the real key is having founder, we call them glass chewers. These are people who have the solution to an enormous problem. Nothing is going to stop them. Absolutely nothing is going to stop them. And no matter how many arrows come at them, like, you can't do that. Or the parents are saying, it's a dumb idea. Or, the neighbors are saying, oh my God, what's wrong with him? Or the banker's saying, you know what, you should get a job. It's like, nothing's going to stop me. I'm going to build this thing. I'm going to hit pivots and ditches. But I'm going to keep going. And nothing's going to stop me. That inspires confidence in everybody else behind them. Now, it's lonely. as a founder and as a CEO. Because you, as you know, you go home and, hey, how was work today? You'd really like to just vomit all over the table and say, well,
yeah, especially those first 7-8 years, it was almost like, but you couldn't do that every day. You just can't.
And you can't go to your investors and say, boy, did I have a crappy day, or to your employees and say, God, this really is horrible, right? It's got to be the confident, leadership driven, focused person, but you're carrying all that on your shoulders. It's a tough existence, and very few people really are up to the task.
Yeah.
But the ones that are, I mean, it's quite a dynamic ride. And I'll never forget, there's a founder of this. It's actually a women's swimsuit company that we invested in St. Louis. Her name's Lori Coulter, got Alzheimer's. And so the pandemic hits. Nobody's buying swimsuits.
Of course.
Supply chain issues. You can't get stuff out of China and Asia and Mexico. All of a sudden, you got too much stuff coming in. And then there were interest rates. And then we've got, all these massive, massive headwinds that were killing their business. And I just said, Lori, my God, supply chain, pandemic, shutdowns and this and no travel and all of these things that are out of your control. I mean, how you doing? And she looks at me and she goes, nothing is out of my control.
Really?
End of discussion.
Wow.
Those are the founders we like to back.
Yeah, of course.
Because sometimes stuff like that happens and they start going, you know what, I wonder if I should just go get a side hustle or get a job, or this ain't working, or and the signs are there and the communication starts to drop off and the reporting is a little muddy and confusing. And back to your question about operating expenses, and we kind of, after a month, kind of go, hey, well, looks like the OpEx is kind of going up a little bit. What? And they don't have an answer. We go, you know what, this ain't working.
Yep. Put a pause and say, yeah, what is going on?
Well, in our industry, things happen fast, but later stage investing, like in private equity particularly, you have time to fix it. They have a lot of cash. They're still a big company. It's still growing. Maybe they have to change out the senior team or some people on the junior team, or maybe it's a this or a that. The early stage companies, and particularly tech businesses, just don't have that luxury.
Yeah, they don't have that time.
You and I can't sit here and go, gosh, should we make a change at the CEO level? Well, what do you think, Bob? We don't have, you can't do that. That's the founder.
Yeah. You remove him, and next thing you know, you're running the business. Exactly. And that's not what that's not why you started it.
Yeah. No, none of us want to do that. And that's not why you're in it, and you shouldn't be. If you're an investor and you think I'm going to own 50% of this and run it, then it's the wrong approach. Yeah. So
I've seen that work only a few times in my experience, where somebody sells their business, they want to go buy a business and invest in it, but then also run it.
Yeah.
Because they think they can do better. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But
rarely does. Rarely does. Yeah. It's rare that you have that ability to transfer the knowledge and the energy of the founder as well. And the ones that make that transition over a 10, 20-year period have done it because it's a methodical plan. But the first 5 years of that business, first 18 months really, I mean, if it's going to work or go into a ditch on fire.
No, good stuff again, Mark. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. It's been fun to have these conversations with you. I really appreciate it.
Easy to do. Let me know anytime. Happy to.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
See you.
If you want to achieve financial freedom, then click the link in the show notes now so you can take advantage of this free information.